To the show, Congressman Pat Fallon from House Oversight. Okay, GoFundMe, Airbnb, Facebook, Spotify, they're ratcheting up their bans and censorships, pressure from cancel culture, right? There's talking about censoring Joe Rogan, but Sean Hannity pointed this out. Why not talking about Louis Farrakhan or R. Kelly or Bill Cosby and Gary Glitter? They're still on Spotify.
Well, Liz, thanks for having me on. The big tech companies, they only censor anybody right of center. You can be left to Trotsky and they don't care. And it's gotten to a point where we're beyond. We can't accept this any longer, and we need to. I think personally, we need to break up the monopoly of big tech and also remove, because they're not neutral platforms, and remove their protections under Section 230.
Yeah, they're deplatforming people right and left on Twitter, right? So that's what's happening, too. You know, it started with workers at Netflix, demanding Dave Chappelle be canceled for his remarks on transgender people. They attacked HBO's Bill Maher for going against their thinking. Maher said, "It's not me who's changed, it's the left. They've gone mental. I'm willing to call them out." That's a direct quote. But, the censorship of Rogan, we understand he apologized for his racial slur, right? But it started over his having guests on questioning vaccines and the safety of vaccines. Okay, Australia, you see Australia, they're talking about it. 4 dozen peer-reviewed medical papers submitted to various medical journals. We're talking JAMA, the National Library of Medicine. Even if you question vaccines, you're attacked, right? But it's like if you're thinking, it's like their conclusion is where the mind comes to rest for these individuals. Adverse events. We're talking myocarditis. We're talking thrombosis. We're talking all sorts of cardiac problems, Bell's palsy, immune-mediated diseases, and more from vaccines. Why are we not allowed to talk about it?
I know. Why can't we just simply be fully informed? The good Lord bless all of us, Liz, with trillions of brain cells between our ears. And I'm not afraid to read opposing views, hear opposing views, or read them. Apparently, the left is. This is the doctrine of the Politburo. We must accept what our overlords say, or otherwise, or else. And, we've had it. The American people have to stand up. You see the Canadian truckers. They're done. And then they get GoFundMe, what did they raise, $9 million for them? And then they gave the money back. I mean, this has reached, as I said before, a boiling point, and it has to be addressed.
Well, they demean themselves with their own bullying, right? They demean themselves with their own lack of thinking, right? And, to your point, Facebook is moving posts from the truckers. They're going to move out of California, possibly go to D.C., and now Facebook is shutting them down. Meanwhile, the Oscars is saying you don't need a COVID vaccine passport to get into the Oscars, but God help the Canadian truckers or the U.S. truckers who are alone in their cabins, who are vaccinated, many of them. They're saying, listen, why are we having these mandates like having to quarantine for weeks on end if we go cross-border? We got to make a living, too.
This is groupthink, 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 and Liz, it's absolutely ridiculous. When you mix politics with medicine, there's 2 results. You get bad politics and bad medicine.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. This is what it's about. The left and the liberals use censorship. They do it in people's personal lives. They bully instead of talking because they don't want to be challenged. It's too uncomfortable. Easier to shut people down and personally attack them with name-calling instead of listening and having their thoughts changed. Censorship is a key tenet of the left-wing agenda. It's being used as a political weapon to attack, bully, and smear anyone who questions anything. And it's wrong. And that kind of thinking has got to stop. Your final word.
Well, look at what's happening, Liz, on college campuses. When liberals go on college campuses, they're welcomed and lauded, and there's palm trees, and they throw rose petals where they walk. But if somebody like Ben Shapiro or Michelle Malkin or really any conservative goes on a college campus, there might be riots and chaos because they're trying to silence. They don't want to have a spirited exchange of ideas because we are the adults in the room and think logically, and they're largely basing their views on emotion.
Well, they don't want to feel stupid, right? So they don't want to feel less intelligent. So it's really about their own vanity and egoism. Congressman Pat Fallon, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to have you on.